Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Penn State football fans. Whenever you're listening to this, you have a new defensive coordinator. This is Johnny McGonigal with PennLive from the Blue White Breakdown. Another little solo mission here. We did one when Andy Kotelnicki was hired as Penn State's new offensive coordinator. Let's do it again for a defensive coordinator. Bob Flounders is out this week, so just wanted to fill you guys in a little bit on Tom Allen, former Indiana head coach, now officially Penn State's defensive coordinator. We're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. Reports started to surface on Sunday afternoon that Penn State was targeting Allen to be the replacement for Manny Diaz. The subcommittee with the BOT, for compensation met on Tuesday afternoon to approve his contract, which is a reported 3-year deal worth $1.5 million this upcoming season, 2024, 1.6 in 2025, and 1.7 in 2026. Tom Allen, former Indiana head coach, staying in the Big Ten East, but there's no Big Ten East anymore, this upcoming season, but staying in the Big Ten. He was a longtime coach there, took over in an interim status in 2016 when Kevin Wilson resigned from his role. Tom Allen had come on that year as a defensive coordinator and really turned things around for the Hoosiers. I mean, they were one of the most improved defenses, if not the most improved defense in the FBS at that point. Really improved their total defense or pass defense. He retained play calling duties in 2017 and 2018. The Hoosiers, they were 8th in the FBS in third down defense in 2017, tied for 11th nationally in takeaways in 2018. Had always kind of been just a stingy, nasty defense to play against, especially early in Tom Allen's, his era there, if you want to call it that. The defense kind of fell off a little bit over the last few years, and Tom was eventually fired, by Indiana after this season. He accumulated a 33-48 record as Indiana's, head coach. Not great, but also it's Indiana. They reached a couple bowl games in his 7 seasons there. They're paying him a hefty buyout. I think it's $15.5 million, as reported by ESPN. Tom's sitting on a mint there, and he's getting paid pretty good by Penn State as well to come in and you really can't improve this defense. James Franklin mentioned that last Friday at Peach Bowl Media Day in State College. This was a defense that was number 1 in the country in total defense, the best total defense in terms of yards allowed per game since Alabama's in 2011. You look at what they've done from a sack standpoint. I think they were 1st in the country in sacks, 3rd in tackles for loss, 3rd scoring defense, 3rd in pass defense, rush defense, all these different statistics. Penn State was either at the top of the country or near the top of the country this past season. Thanks a lot to a lot of the players that will be going off to the NFL. You talk about Chop Robinson, Adisa Isaac. The list goes on and on. But Manny Diaz had such a big role in that over the last 2 seasons after coming over from Miami, being unceremoniously fired by the Hurricanes after the 2020 season, 2021 season, hops aboard for 2022 and 2023. Players loved him, coaches loved him, fans loved him, as he really orchestrated a chaotic, aggressive, and disruptive defense over the last 2 years for the Nittany Lions. He left a couple weeks ago to become the head coach at Duke. It was understood throughout his time at Penn State that it wouldn't be a long tenure as a defensive coordinator, that he wanted to be a head coach again one day. And he got that opportunity to go back into the ACC. And so can't blame him there at all. And now Penn State turns to another, fired head coach in the Power 5 to come in and coach his defense. Tom Allen will also be the linebackers coach, which is what Manny Diaz handled as well. So no surprise there. But it's going to be difficult to improve this defense because where can you go when you're already at or near the top of the country in every statistical category that matters? But he was beloved by his players at Indiana. He was well respected by Penn State staff, James Franklin specifically. It felt like every time before Penn State played Indiana in Big Ten East play over the last 7 years, James Franklin always had compliments and really nice things to say about Tom Allen. I think last year he called him a good man, good coach, good person. And James talked last week about how important those relationships are. Like, obviously you have to be a good defensive play caller, which Tom Allen has proven to be, whether when he was the D coordinator At Ole Miss. He was at South Florida before getting to Indiana. He used to coach high schools in Florida. He's been able to recruit the area well down there for Indiana. Imagine what he could do with Jaywan Sider, the running backs coach for Penn State, getting some of the top talent in the Sunshine State up to Happy Valley. So that's a little side piece to this. But I think the most important thing is his experience as a play caller. He's been the head coach of a program for 7 seasons. James Franklin wanted a head coach of the defense. James Franklin coming from an offensive background, he spends more of his time on the offensive side of the ball. So he's going to be hands off with the defense. He'll sit in all meetings, obviously, and know what's going on. But this will be Tom Allen's show to run the defense. And he's an experienced guy. I believe he's 53 years old. He's been around the block. He knows what it takes at a smaller program in Indiana to win and to be successful from a defensive side of the ball in the Big Ten. And so now he's going to come into a defensive room with Abdul Carter and KJ Winston, Denai Dennis Sutton, a lot of talent on this defense that will lose guys to the NFL, but still a lot of talent coming back for 2024. It's the second fired head coach that James Franklin has hired now to become the defensive coordinator. Second coordinator hire in the last month, with Andy Kotelnicki coming in from Kansas to run the offense. So, some changes on the coaching staff. I don't think this will affect the defensive staff from a position coach standpoint. Anthony Poindexter would have been the internal promotion if they went that route. The co-defensive coordinator and safeties coach, who almost left for the Virginia job a couple of years ago. Talk about well-respected guys within the program. Anthony Poindexter is well-respected in the Lash building by both players and coaches. But you look at the rest of the staff, like Deion Barnes just got promoted to D-line coach. Like, I don't see any of these guys moving on. Terry Smith seems pretty locked in at corners coach and defensive recruiting coordinator, a Penn State letterman. So I wouldn't worry about any of that. But I think they got a good one in Tom Allen. It's one that just made sense. As soon as he got fired by Indiana, I mentioned those relationships and those compliments that James Franklin has always paid him over the years. Talking to Joe Herman, our photographer, he actually pointed out that before this year's game between Penn State and Indiana at Beaver Stadium, the pregame conversation between Tom Allen and James Franklin lasted a little longer than they normally do. So I don't know if and Pat Kraft ended up joining in on those conversations as well. Don't think contract negotiations were being discussed at that point, but maybe a little hint here. Hey, if Manny leaves, who knows? But this is a guy who, like I said, is well respected, has the history, has the experience. I think Penn State's getting a good one. And look, we'll see, because we'll see how they do in 2024 and if he's there 2025, 2026. But he's got a lot to work with on this defense. Andy Kotelnicki has a lot of work to do on the offensive side of the ball as well. You got the transfer portal that's open. They're going to be looking for contributors on both sides of the ball. Signing day is tomorrow, the 2024 early signing period. Would expect Tom Allen to be formally introduced to us, the media, with a press conference on Wednesday afternoon. So keep tabs on that. Make sure you're staying updated on PennLive.com. Join our tech subscriber base if you haven't already. And be sure to continue to listen and watch the Blue White Breakdown presented by PennLive. This has been Johnny McGonigal. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.